It's Monday, the 29th December 2025. Just about 2 days left in the year, and we are in that space between Christmas leftovers and the New Year phase. And I still have meat from the celebrations in my refrigerator, as well as all the soft drinks and the not so soft drinks in my refrigerator from the celebrations. Good morning again, and welcome to Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. It is the Morning Express, and this is where we talk to you about all of the things happening within the country and beyond, where we look through the pages of our newspapers with the help of analysis to give you context on the many stories that have been reported. But before we get into all of that conversation, I think that we should talk about the unforgettable Mainland FM End of the Year Party and Awards Night. We're back in the studio, but I just cannot gloss over what was a remarkable night here at the Mainland FM studio. We partied with friends, with listeners who have ultimately become family. There was food, drinks, games, dancing competition. That they did a joro, but no wala. It was lovely. And also a big congratulations to all of the award winners: Lady Mo, Bayemi Akiode, MC Password, Creative Ninja, and of course my humble self. Well, thank you so very much for the recognition. It was wonderful. And as we are shaking off the confetti, let me call it that, of turning our attention to the headlines, we still need to talk about all the many things that has shaped the week. And so we are using this to welcome you to trends in the papers. I know that we're still in celebratory mode. There's still oil on our lips, but many things did happen as we were having fun. Some things were happening within the country and beyond, and that's why we're taking this opportunity of the newspaper review, where we're going to be breaking down the stories making wave across the country, what matters, what should matter, what is unfolding, and what to watch out for as 2025 countdown is happening. We are at the last lap. In less than 48 hours it will be the year 2026. So settle in and let's have a conversation. Although Fuad will be joining us in a few minutes, and I will bring him on after I refresh your memory or give you insight into some of the stories that you might have missed. It's still trends in the papers. My name is Sage Babalola, and this is still Mainland 98.3 FM. Very briefly, let's look at weekend stories, and then we bring in Fuad. Yes, we have Punch. Fuel price war will benefit Nigerians, says NNPCL. Terrorists relocate after U.S. airstrike. Atiku warns against rushed regazetting of tax laws. Tambuwal condoles Sokoto community. Urges calm after U.S. strike. 600 billion in Rivers coffers attracting political interest, says Wike. Nigerians are paying cheapest domestic airfare in the world, says Airpeace boss. U.S. airstrike in Nigeria puts civilians at risk, says Adamu Garba. The Guardian reports Tinubu's government frolicking with terrorists, says Ezekwesili. Obi, lawmaker obedient, set to defect to ADC on Wednesday. Account for 50 billion naira Ibadan relief fund or resign, or your APC tells Makinde. In 3 days, Senate fast-tracked Tinubu's 2026 budget without opposition. We would resume full politics in January, says Wike. U.S. airstrike in Nigeria sketchy, says Daniel Bwala. And we have President depart to Europe. Those are the stories that had trended over the course of the weekend. I'm sure that many of them have spilled into the morning. So we would see the papers reporting the aftermath of these weekend stories. And as I said, on Facebook and on YouTube. So I ask that you join us on our social media platforms, so you can see what's going on in the live studio if that's what you want. Or if you're in transit and you like to listen and you don't want to put your transistor radio on your ears, you can very much just use your hands-free and watch us on the live stream. You can also listen via the FM, so just check that and you would be connected to the live stream. Fuad, good morning. How are you today? I'm okay. Beautiful weekend. Yes? Yes. Fuad, we had our party over the...
Oh, thanks for reminding. And it was a party. That was just in a lighter note. Yeah, I enjoyed the party. It was nice to see. At least there was a time to relax and enjoy ourselves and wine. And I think specifically we have to especially thank some of our listeners who, some of us, and I think we just have to thank them for finding time to be with us at the party. So it was a nice one.
Fuad, have you paid the people that won the dance? I don't know. Where did you pay?
Okay, well, so if you don't know, just leave it.
If I had known that they were going to make cash dollar, just ring it. But we had fun. We had a great time. And just like Fuad said, thank you to all of our listeners that came through. It was really nice to see all of you. I've always wanted to put faces to the voices that we hear every time you call in. So it was nice. We had a great time. But hopefully we get other opportunities to have you come in and really we can, asides our party and all the craziness that went down. And yes, in Sokoto State. When the report came out, there were a lot of questions about whether or not this was in collaboration, or should I say the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Toga, who had said, well, this was a collaborative strike. We did provide the United States with intelligence. We are aware, and that moved away. But then there's still questions around advisor. It was the Minister of Defense. Why did it have to be the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to give out these explanation? Also, there were questions around why Sokoto first. Yes, there's insecurity spread across the north, but if we prioritize the states that are war states, one would have expected a Plateau, maybe a Benue, for example. That these are the areas who suffered the consequences of this attack the most. We choose Sokoto of all places. Why was it the Ministry of Foreign Affairs giving us information? Why, first of all, did we even hear about any of this from the United States instead from our own to relocate? And there's now concerns about, is this airstrike going to become more of a problem for us? Because it's hard.
All right, thank you, Sage. For those that listened to the political roundtable yesterday, I think my analysts have been able to answer most of these questions. Again, questions around why it was the Minister of Foreign Affairs that made the announcement unilaterally. And if you also look at statements from the United States, apart from the statement from the President himself, President Trump, the collaboration with Nigerian authorities. So I think we can put that to rest for those who are trying to, check and recheck if it is true that the Nigerian government was aware of those strikes. And for those that listen carefully to what Barrister Curtis had said yesterday, even if they were not aware, I think we have to commend the courage of the president of the country for accepting the go-ahead. If you understand how delicate it is for the president to take such a decision, understanding the political implications, and then I think to a great extent we have to commend the president on this one for showing some level of political will to give approval for the strikes to go on. Well, I think to that extent they must be commended. Now on the choice of Sokoto, again, yes, in terms of the activities of these terrorists, bandits, kidnapping, but again, if you have gone through the statement of the U.S. government, what he said is that, look, while we killed a number of these guys, a large, yes, Sokoto might just be the operational base. We not be example, it's first classified. After a proper review and analysis, then they begin to declassify it, and then remapping on the Venezuelan waters. The things that are released are eventually declassified. When the strike force happens, Sage, they don't release everything. They first classify it and then declassify it. Remember that there's this back and forth on strikes on the occupants of the boat survive, and then there was a second strike to kill them all. That became of that event. So I think in the coming days, we may now get the U.S. officials declassifying the results of some of these airstrikes, and then we will begin to see the release of videos of the aftermath of this strike. So I think we have to hold on, even though we are already getting reports locally of what has happened in some of these places. I was watching TV yesterday, and residents of that area are splitting into groups, trying to get into the parts of the country. We also saw some of the effects in Opa. We are not sure of what happened, but most likely it could also be some of the impact of these strikes. A dozen of those cruise missiles were fired from the Gulf of Guinea. So you could understand still come. I think we just have to keep following the news and see what comes up next.
Well, there you have it. And speaking of the people living in Sokoto State, we saw that some of these strikes did hit family. Part of all of this is that there was no casualty in these strikes. And President Trump says that
for those that eat what is said to be farmland.
Yeah.
Again, we don't have all the entire detail. One of our TV stations to the community members are confirming the fact that, look, a large number of these insurgents who are camped in the particular place they mentioned I think eventually we'll get more reports of the effectiveness of this strike. We just have to wait.
Well, another conversation that really stuck out over the course of the weekend was the president's trip, to be in the UAE, Abu Dhabi, if we're being precise, for the Abu Dhabi summit, which is supposed to hold from January 11 to January 17. Well, that is provided when it comes to the itinerary of the president. Why is there no precision whatsoever in the information that is made available? You've told us that he went to Europe. Europe is a continent. Europe is not a country. The summits that you say he's going for doesn't start until the 11th of January and it ends on the 17th. We don't know a day after the summit, a week after the summit, a month after the summit. We don't have any information. It's not just the ambiguity of the press release for our side. It's also opposition saying that maybe you should draw a scale of preference as the president. Your people are dying, and so maybe you can avoid these trips, because many have highlighted that his presence over the last couple of weeks, especially after Trump put our security operatives, and they would have expected that he continued on that streak. For side.
Well, see, I think people need to understand why we are actually acting on this particular issue, and why we are staying on it, demanding that look, the very big sage. Because again, yesterday, while we were discussing this on the round table, it was not part of the list of things to discuss, but it happened before the show, so we had to take it up immediately. And I saw somebody sent a message to say, "Oh, you people like Wahala Jare. Even if the president tells you his location, you will still criticize them." Like, can you imagine the way people think? Sage. Just imagine how whack the thing of the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Again, we are talking about a president who will be going on a trip, fully funded by the citizens' money, you see. We are talking about the very basic that you can demand from a leader about journalism, experience and knowledge. I say it here, with Mr. Bayo Onuga's knowledge and experience, he can put somebody like me in class and teach me for 4 years. But if you now get with that level of experience and knowledge, and then you get a press release that so it's just like the US government issued a statement to say President Donald Trump has departed the US for Africa. Out of that, let everybody come and make that make sense to second guess, speculate, and assume the whereabouts. As it stands today, unless somebody somewhere sees the president in Europe, in fact, as we speak, we don't know the whereabouts of the president. But do you know? See,
he's in Europe now, Abi.
He's in Europe. Where in Europe? You say he's in Europe.
Abi is in Europe. I don't know what they told us. He's in Europe.
Is he in Sweden? Is he in Belgium? Is he in the UK? Is he in France? Is he in Istanbul? And then the question again is this event, even by its press release, does not specifically tell us when the program will start or end. It is people, and I think that the event will start early January.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that Mr. Bayo Onuga was able to give us the details early January? What is early January, you say? How does that really make any sense?
We are like 1 to 15. We are like 1st to 15.
So we should also we should start early in January. So even if you have these details of January 11 to 17 of that event, it must have been our editors going to check out the event to bring that the date. Not that you so press release, you get any information on that. Then you now go forward. Because what you just said here is that the president will return to the country after the summit. See, after the summit means what?
It just says after the summit. We know that.
So I am sure that year one students of journalism will look at this president. The sad part of this whole thing is that this country is governed at this time. Decisions to do things like this does not even do the president any good. What is the whole thing about? What? Because again, you don't allow people to begin to ask questions. If you go on social media now, speculations are fired right left and center. Oh, you are not to France. Again, we are talking about the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are not talking about the private citizen.
lawmaker who is displeased with the call by the Senate to regazette the alleged alterations to the tax bills. So this is the part that really has Nigerians raising an eyebrow. The Senate is refusing to admit that alterations happen, given room for transparency and accountability, and you're saying you would regazette. What does it take you to just take it a step further and actually admit that there were alterations?
There's no controversy. It's just that as a people, we like to continue to deceive ourselves. We've also elected people who will never be transparent with Nigeria. Again, Sage, we are talking about alteration to a law that was passed by the representatives of the people, harmonized, passed and transmitted to the president for accent, only for us to be told that there were alterations when the gazetted copy was reviewed by legislators and people that should know. And it's been a lot of back and forth. Did it happen? Did it not happen? And I told you, nations making statements, and the most critical part of the conversation, he keeps avoiding it. The only thing he keeps saying is that, oh, we just have to implement the law. Hey, man. And I think people need to tell me, it got 5 billion to do this job. We understand it was handsomely paid. Heavily paid to do this job. 5 billion is no small money. And we also understand that as tax consultants, as tax experts, they are going to be the major beneficiaries of these old tax reforms that are going to happen. This idea of who can decide whether subsidy removal has benefited them or not. So this thing sounds too good to be true. But what we are saying is that there cannot be alteration to what was passed by the National Assembly. And if there were alterations, that can itself be classified as forgery. And we needed to know at what point were these things altered. Now we want you to slide, and then you have the Senate saying they want to regazette. Why are you regazetting if you are saying, oh, there were no alterations? We are talking about, you know what it means to alter what has been passed by the National Assembly, assented to by the President?
It's a crime.
We are talking about forgery. Yes, I'm with you, Sage.
I said it's a crime.
It's a crime. So and we're just going to allow this slide. It does not really matter. You can see that people are already putting ethnic colorations to it. That is Nigeria for you. We will leave the core of the issues and begin to look outstanding for. Is that too big to demand to know why, where, when, how these things were altered? I don't know. Somebody needs to tell me that we are being too critical. We are asking too many questions. Sage.
Well, there you have it. As I said, the Senate have decided to have the tax laws regazetted, but they are emphasizing that this is not an admittance. Come on, there are like 7 sections they state. So this is not the first time that clerical errors like these ones have happened. You would know. Let's move on. We have a lot of other stories. This is 98.3 FM. This is Trends in the Papers. We're live on Facebook. Just join the live stream. My name is Sage. Babalola Fuadside is on the phone, and we are reviewing the papers together. Since we're talking about the Senate and the National Assembly, we might as well talk about the concerns that have been raised. Dominance poor checks mark ritual. 34 states to spend 34.63 trillion naira next year. Imo lawmakers pass budget within 24 hours. Edo-Ekiti Enugu legislators return figure on all, from northwest to southwest that return the figures to chief executives almost in the figures received. In Edo-Ekiti Enugu state, the governors had the appropriation passed to them as transmitted to the lawmaker. So far, we have an understanding of newspaper. There's hardly any scrutiny, sometimes 3 days, and then the budget has been assented to. What they're calling for is proper scrutiny. I remember the last time that there was proper scrutiny of budgets. We saw multiplicity of projects. We saw budget padding. But this process that this budget, and the Guardian is saying, in fact, some of those budgets, the figure, nothing changed. You're scrutinizing
these things. We demand that we should allow democracy to thrive. We demand that the right thing should be done. Create an open multi-party democracy that allows the best of the people to get into these positions. Sage, just a lot of times when we scrutinize budgets, we focus too much on the federal level.
Yeah.
If you look at state assemblies in the country that are worn the rubber stamp, in fact, the only way in most of the states, both the executive and legislature have become one. So they are on the same page. There are no checks and balances. It's what you call a unified interest theory. The Guardian is highlighting in that report. You speedily pass. Look, that's why if you go into budget performance analysis at the state level, you win for this country. Because, like I said, the only time we concentrate on legislative duties when it comes to budget and what have you, operations, funding, records, appropriations, duplicity. Look, all around, and that's why nobody cares. 24 hours.
Yeah. Well, far side, the eyes have it. As you say, the eyes have it. Sorry about that. You don't go beyond.
Okay.
So the Guardian in that report actually says that the State Assembly are borrowing a leaf from this National Assembly.
Trickles down, yeah. It trickles down. What happens at that level comes just like I said, they borrow a leaf. I agree with the Guardian newspaper. The doctrine of separation of power, checks and balances. Those are also all true at the state level.
Well, we're going to the Punch newspaper now. We have federal government writes off $1.42 billion, 5.57 trillion naira NNPC debt. President Bola Tinubu has approved the cancellation of a substantial portion of the debt owed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to the Federation of Records between both parties. We have here in the section headed Recovery from NNPCL Limited, outstanding obligation. The Commission said the debt earlier reported as at October 2025 FAC meeting stood at 1,480,610,652 and 6,332,888,316,237.13. So I give out of it. They're going to enjoy debt forgiveness. But even with this debt forgiveness that the president has offered to them, there's still the money that's supposed to have remitted to the Federation's account.
Sage, let's read the story very well and ask ourselves if this is debt forgiveness or what can be called. Because again, if you look at the headline of the story, there's something wrong somewhere. Because there was an account reconciliation committee of some sort. These were initial debt that had been owed until December 2020. Monies were not owed. So do we call that forgiveness or the announcement of the NNPC? Because there have been a lot of civil society organizations demanding for accountability about these monies.
Right.
So a presidential committee was formed to reconcile these accounts, and they are now telling us that all of the monies will be hearing that the NNPCL did not remit to the federation account no longer exist. They will be written off or they will reconcile and they have discovered that the NNPCL is not owing any money, at least as at December 2024. But now you have another set of debt accumulating already as of October 2025.
You think it resembles the rebasing system that we employed when it came to inflation figures?
Until we have the details of how this reconciliation was done now, about these monies that are not being remitted. So the reconciliation, what was reconciled, we need to know. How did it get to the point where it now said that, look, what we thought that the NNPC had not remitted to the pension account as at December 2024, no longer are now saying, the one of 2025 too does not even exist. We've reconciled it and all is well. That's what I'm saying. We need to get the details of how suddenly what they have told us was death of not to trust reconciliation. My mind tells me that something has gone on that.
25. Let's see how that plays out.
Remember that we are talking about an NNPCL.
Yeah.
That failed integrity test, scoring 0, came last. So people should understand why I say don't trust that something has not happened unless somebody shows me the details of what was reconciled. I will never believe that there was a continuation that now says the NNP at December 2024 no longer owns the God country.
Well, Fuad, I'd like to read the rest of the headline. She was responding to how these terrorists continue unabated and that any serious-minded government would have found a way to annihilate these terrorists, pay a bribe. For that conversation has come up where...
It's big. That conversation is big.
Yes. I want you to talk about it, actually. We have an Ayofayoshe festival who was for him, and you said no, but you did not tell us about the 50 billion naira that was given to you following the explosion in Oyo State. Of course, the spokesperson for the Oyo State governor has said that we requested 50 billion, but only about 30 billion was given to us. So don't paint the wrong picture out there. Let's talk about all the angles that have come to play here.
Now, we need to first understand that, look, these regulations are good, so that the public will understand that, look, public funds are just being filtered away. That at all levels, we have corruption flying all around, misappropriation of public funds. Now, what are we doing? The G5, Wike, and the president, who is said allegedly asked him to help him organize your state ahead of 2027. So one would have thought that, look, to go ahead of what Wike will be saying today. And in his own response to all the things ᴏᴜᴜ said, he now revealed that, look, Fᴜᴜᴜ did not debunk any of the allegations of ᴏᴜᴜ said. He did not say, oh, not all those things are not true. That whether the president, that ᴏᴜᴜ said that Fᴜᴜᴜ came on TV to come and debunk. The only thing he came to do was to also raise other issues around integrity. And what he said, well, you see all of these things. Now look at the response of the Oyo state government. Sage. So what they are telling us now is that, oh, we didn't get 50 billion, no, we got 30 billion. Sage. But if you go further, they disbursed how much to the victims?
I think 4.5.
About 4 billion.
Yes.
Abi?
Yes.
Out of 30 billion. 30 billion. 50 got 4 billion. And they say the 20 billion did not come because people were demanding for bribe.
Okay.
So you see the level we are in this country.